Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. And before we get going, yes, I'm not at home. I'm away this weekend, dog sitting for a buddy, so this lovely wall behind me is what we'll be looking at the next few days. But we are, of course, at the Cinema Sit Down, and that means we are talking movies. And I got a movie to talk about today, man, that I'm excited about. This is actually the first review I've done for one of my live reactions since starting to do those. And yes, I apologize. It's been way too long getting to this video. Very busy week. But we are here, and it is time to dive into it. And this is a movie that I was nervous about inside of a franchise that I was nervous about. The marketing and the trailers weren't really getting me too stoked. And I was staying at a pretty baseline expectation-wise for this film. But if you saw my live reaction, yes, I was a little lukewarm in the first two-thirds, but that has grown on me as I've thought about things that go on in the first two-thirds of this movie. But the third act finally is taking this franchise someplace that I think it desperately needs to go to. And for me, it solidifies and seals just how good of a Jurassic entry this movie is. And I just teased what we're talking about. So you know the drill. Blow up a chair, take a seat. As I just gave away, we are, of course, going spoiler-free, talking about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Yes, we have finally hit a Jurassic entry that is doing what this franchise needs, and that's taking it someplace new. If you saw my live reaction, I was a little lukewarm about the first two-thirds of this movie. That has changed. There are issues, and we'll dive into that as we like to start with the bad and end with the good. But before we do, let's set up the movie for those unaware. Jurassic World, the direct sequel, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the direct sequel to Jurassic World. This movie advances a few years forward. We learn that our main characters, Owen and Claire, are no longer together. Claire is working for kind of like an animal rights activist type, non-profit group. That's focus is trying to save the dinosaurs. Isla Nublar is going to explode. The volcano's finally going to go off. And they have found a sanctuary, an enclosed island, with fresh water in the middle, for the dinosaurs to be taken to. But Bryce Dallas Howard's Claire needs our Chris Pratt's Owen Grady to come back because Blue is on the island. And she's easily the most important thing there, as she's the last raptor. That brings them back, so they go to the island to save all the dinosaurs. But of course, there's some nefarious shadiness going on, and when it does, that takes us not where we think we're going. And it leads to tons of awesomeness. Oh, the end of this movie, the last 40 minutes, so much fun. It's one of those things when we've left the island in the past, we have not gotten a ton of fun. But what we get this time, woo boy. But before we get into the good stuff, let's start with the bad so I can end with the good and you guys have a good taste to hopefully go check this movie out again, because I'm hoping you've already seen it. But if you haven't, I need you to go see it anyway, because this movie, I love it, man. All right, so the bad, look. I mentioned this in my live reaction. There is little to no character development. Yes, Claire and Owen are back, and they're separated, but nothing really else building on their characters too much. Our supporting cast, characters Franklin and Zia, they're good. Justice Smith and Danielle Pineda, really good, but just not a ton for their characters to do. And it's like that for every character in the movie. There's just not much development. Yet somehow all of these actors do a really good job in the movie. It's highly impressive when you don't have a ton to work with. And that's apparent. You can't miss it. It's just right in your face the whole time. But I couldn't put my finger during my live reaction to what the other thing was that was bothering me. And I sat there in the movie going, I wish I had more Chris Pratt. And I think most of that is because of the character development stuff, because he's on screen a good amount. But there are two things that I've realized now thinking about the movie. The first bad, the second actually good. The bad, the pacing's off. In the first two acts, the pacing is wonky. A few times it kind of drags a little bit, and I think you could trim some of the fat off this movie, get it down maybe closer to an hour and 45. You could tighten this up, get the pacing better, and boom, you'd really be working with something. But that does not happen at all in the last 40 minutes. I think the pacing, once we get to the Lockwood estate, is fantastic. But that said, yeah, that is kind of the thing that I've realized. It was like this movie just needed to be tighter. There were times that dragged that didn't need to drag. But the other thing is that our main characters lose screen time to the dinosaurs, especially in the first two-thirds. It's almost a 50-50 split, and that I love. It is so cool to spend like legit time with these dinosaurs and to get to see a whole variety of dinosaurs. Probably the most diverse group of dinos we've ever seen in a Jurassic movie. And we really get to spend decent time with most of them, which is really cool, and something that I love that J.A. Bayona does. And J.A. Bayona is the guy to talk about with this movie, because, oh, man, I was excited when he was brought on. I was excited when he said he was going for a horror, scary dinosaur flick. Director of The Orphanage, one of my all-time favorite horror films, came from Mr. Bayona, so I was very excited. He nails the suspense stuff. And that's the thing he really does. He captures that scary, suspenseful tone. It works the best in the last 40 minutes, but he crafts it throughout the whole movie. The only problem is the suspense that we get early, at least if our main characters are involved in it. You know nothing's going to happen to them, so that can kind of undercut the suspense. But from a technical standpoint, crafted very, very well. But he nails this right at the very beginning. You get a taste of what you're in for with the opening sequence in this movie, and the opening sequence in this movie is brilliant. And it's nostalgic, man. It's raining. It's, shady scientists doing shady things, and they're dinosaurs, and they're eating people. And that's another thing, man. There are a lot of casualties in this movie, and I loved every one of them. Oh, it was so much fun to see the dinosaurs going off on some humans. But that opening scene is really one of the things that that grew on me the more I thought about it, and something that pops so well in the movie. It is cinematically very visually stunning. Bayona does this light trick with lightning to tease a dino that's in the background, and then lightning flashes, you see it. Next time the lightning flashes, it's closer. The next time the lightning flashes, it's right on top of you. And that's actually a move he does multiple times in the movie, and it works every time. It's crazy to pull the same trick like 2 or 3 times in a movie and have it work every time. But it really does, and it just adds to that sequence. But the opening scene, killer for me. Great way to start the movie, and you bookend that with its ending. You got a good movie on your hands, guys. And it's some of the stuff that he does in that first sequence is stuff that he'll do throughout the movie. That really is nostalgic feeling, right? Jurassic World gave you that feeling of the park nostalgia, finally getting to see it open. This is more of a cinematic nostalgia, man. There are shots in this movie, there are set pieces in this movie that are right out of the original movie, the original Jurassic Park, man. And it involves, dino hunters and, electric shocks and shadows, and it's filled with nostalgia, and I love that. It's something Bayona nails. And then, like I said, the suspense and the terror is just where he lives, and it's so, so good. But the regular action is awesome too, right? The island blowing up isn't necessarily about being suspenseful or scary. It's just solid action. And the CGI work is brilliant, and the look is great. Bayona just delivers on everything big, right? All the action, all the horror, it works. And then, of course, the thing that works more than anything is the fact that he used practical animatronics. That was one of the things Bayona, he said he wanted to make a scary movie, and he wanted to bring back things that you could put your hands on. I think the Jurassic World one only had one dinosaur that was practical. This movie's got a bunch of them, and the CGI and special effect work is so good that when you go from practical dinosaur to CGI dinosaur, you don't really lose anything. And I think there are also times where the CGI and the practical are blended. I could be wrong, but the look of the dinos is wild. And again, when you're talking about making a scary, suspenseful movie, when you actually have a dinosaur that's terrifying to look at be right in front of your face and you know it's right there, it adds to what the actors are doing too. It gives them more to play off of. And it really, really works with new character Maisie Lockwood, the little girl from the trailers. Having practical dinosaurs with a little kid just amplifies all of that. And, one of the things I mentioned is, you know sometimes suspense-wise certain things won't happen to your main characters, but the insertion of Maisie into the back part of this movie amplifies all of the suspense because, one, she's a new character. Two, movies don't really have an issue with killing kids anymore. And three, there's a big reveal for her, and when that reveal drops, it changes the way you think about her. And all of a sudden, any situation that's scary that she's in is tenfold, or amplified tenfold, because there's a real fear of there's something that could happen to this little girl. And that makes the end pop. Hardcore. That and the dinosaur choice. Problems with the other Jurassic movies, you end up with these big dinosaurs, right? Like these massive T-Rex type dinosaurs. They're not good villains. The way they used the T-Rex in Jurassic World was brilliant, right? Have him show up to save the day, or like have him, or the way they do the thing with the big T-Rex, the T-Rex at the beginning of the movie where he fights off that other kind of horned T-Rex looking guy. That is where they're perfect. Have him pop up, have him first scare, have another one save him and go, ah! You know, I can't roar like a dinosaur. But that's where they work. Picking dinosaurs that are smaller to be like the big bads works way better because you can actually get physical with your characters, you know, and know that it's not like, oh, I'm trying to fight a T-Rex. I'm finding something that's my size or a little bit bigger than me. And the Indoraptor was the perfect hybrid choice. It's a hybrid raptor with a bunch of different things, kind of like the Indominus Rex. But this guy works way better because, one, he is scarier. Two, he is smarter. Three, he's like a legit evil villain, man. Like, he feels like a Bond villain almost. Like, there's a scene where he does something with his body. Or I guess maybe it's a she. I think all the dinosaurs are she's. Either way, Indoraptor does something with his body that I'd never seen a dinosaur do before, and it ends up on the ground, and a character comes to take a look, and then notices something and looks away, and the dinosaur does something when that happens. When I sat there, I went, did that dinosaur just do what I think it did? And then it plays the character that's in the scene with it, makes him look back, and then makes him look back again, and it does the same exact thing. I was fixated on it, and it was wild, and it's so small. Excuse me. So small that, like, I didn't think it's what I actually saw, so I paid attention. And it was, man. And it's something that just adds to this dinosaur, man. It makes it human. It makes it feel human-esque. And it just, it's terrifying to look at. It's super smart. And it just, everything with it works, man. All the sequences with this dinosaur are wonderful. I absolutely love it. And it's just, oh god, I can't. I want to get into more, but we'll have to do a spoiler review to talk about the Indoraptor in detail because he is brilliant, and the practical parts of him really pop and really amplify the suspense. Now, there's one other thing that J.A. Bayona does, and I mentioned it as far as like the nostalgic feel, but he pulls on your emotions one time real hard in this movie. I actually cried. And I was not expecting to cry. I've been on a good stretch of not crying at the movies lately, and Jurassic World was the last movie I expected that to happen. But there is a scene, or it's at the end of the scene. It's as we're saying goodbye to the island. Claire, Owen, and Franklin get onto the boat, and they look back as the island's destruction is ending. And oh my god, man, it's heartbreaking. It's so, the shot itself cinematically is just gorgeous to look at, but then it is legit heartbreaking. Especially if you're a hardcore Jurassic Park fan, this is something that hits home in a way that I just didn't expect, and it was such a wonderful way to say goodbye to the island. And also something that I loved, right? Like that we got to spend legit time at the island. It was something I was not looking forward to going into the movie because I wanted to get to the suspense stuff, what we get in the last 40 minutes. And I think that also is something that played into why I wasn't over the top about the first two acts initially. But we get to spend a legit amount of time on this island that has meant so much to this world. And the last shot of that island is... It hits you, man. It is emotionally impactful and just such a beautiful send-off to something that's been so important. But a send-off that was very needed. And by destroying the island, I think now we can really push this where it is going. And I love where it's going. So J.A. Bayona, man, big props to you. I could talk about what you did in this movie all day long. But on top of him, there's a bunch of people who did really well here. Michael Giacchino? Michael Giacchino, who did the score for this film. Wow, man. Talk about an awesome score. Everything that Giacchino does with the score amplifies what's going on the screen. So whether it's action, especially suspense, man, he elevates the terror level in this movie with just a brilliant score. And then all of our actors, like I said, even though we don't have tons of character development, everybody showed up and delivers in the movie, which is uber impressive for me. Chris Pratt is great, as is Bryce Dallas Howard, and they are so great together. Their chemistry is phenomenal. I could watch the two of them on screen all day. They have one scene that's just so damn adorable. Like, you sit there and go, Claire, just get back together with Owen already. Like, it needs to happen. Anything that has them on screen together in this movie works. Other than that, Bryce Dallas Howard just brings what you expect from her. And then Chris Pratt brings what we expect from him. And that's the action man. He is solidifying himself as such a great action hero. And these Jurassic movies really know how to use his charm and his physical prowess. He has two big hero scenes. One that takes place in the first act, that's underwater, and then of course at the Lockwood Estate in the finale. And he just owns the screen when he's being a hero, and I love Chris Pratt for that. I also love Chris Pratt's relationship with Blue. That's the one thing that gets tons. Well, not tons, but I guess the most character development are those two. We get a few flashback video shots of him working with Baby Blue and the other raptors, and it really just grows and strengthens their relationship for us. We know it already exists. Now we get to see why. And I love watching them on screen together. The way they make a CGI dinosaur work with Chris Pratt, and almost like I want to see a buddy cop film with Chris Pratt and Blue. I love them together, and their action is great. And like I said, and Chris Pratt he thrives in the last everybody thrives in the last 40 minutes of this movie. Then Isabella Sermon, who plays Maisie Lockwood, our little girl. Phenomenal, man. Like I said, she is the character that really elevates the suspense and the terror just by being there. And then just her acting, man. I really thought she might have been legitimately scared at times on set with these practical, scary dinosaurs. And that just speaks to how great a job she does in the movie, man. Because she really is where the fear lives, and you get it the most from her, and it drives that element forward. There's also a thing that Bayona does Maisie early on in the movie that I went, ooh, that was cool. And then when we get the reveal of her character, I went, oh, great foreshadowing technique. Once you realize what's going on, you could probably piece it together. I was not paying attention other than just like, ooh, that was cool. And then it hit, and I was like, oh my God, that moment is now amazing. So I love what Isabella Sermon does. She's really awesome. And I like the relationship she's cultivated very quickly with both Bryce Dallas Howard and especially Chris Pratt. On top of her, Jeff Goldblum is back. Yes, now this feels like reshoots, add-ons, right? He's only in that courtroom, and he, of all things, he also bookends the movie. I wonder if that has anything to do with why I love the beginning and the end of this film so much, because we get Dr. Ian Malcolm back on screen. Goldblum's fantastic. He delivers easily the line of the entire movie and the line of the series. And the conversations that he's having in the courtroom really drive this kind of moral and ethical conversation that's throughout the whole film. Exists. It's not like thrown in your face the whole time, but he kind of is the driving force story-wise with what he's talking about. This concept of, do we let Mother Nature correct itself, or do we save these dinosaurs? And if we save them, what are the consequences? And a lot of those questions and thoughts come up with what he does with Ian Malcolm. He's really the heartbeat. What he's talking about is the heartbeat of this film. And then it really, really just ties you back to the original Jurassic Park in a way we haven't done yet. I really hope he comes back if they do the third one. I just love seeing Jeff Goldblum in anything, and I especially love Ian Malcolm. So I would love to see him come back and maybe pull back some of our other friends that we haven't seen in a while. As far as the supporting cast goes, look, Justice Smith does a really good job being the scaredy cat, as I mentioned. Daniela Pineda, who plays Zia, she does a great job as the Dino Vet, and they both get moments where they really are able to pop. She's working on a dinosaur on the boat. That's very important, and that whole sequence, you're like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed Daniela Pineda. And then Justice Smith, man, he gets a scene during the sequence with the dinosaurs coming through the lava. He gets a little bit there that's just awesome and really pops for him. So I enjoyed both of them. James Cromwell pops up, albeit with a bad accent. But he shows up for a quick cameo. Nice to get him. His character is actually really, really interesting. Benjamin Lockwood. He's kind of buddies, with John Hammond. And, that whole story, even though it's small, it's a nice little thread to kind of get John back into the film in a way. And he does a really good job. But it is pretty much a straight on cameo. And the character, not the brightest, man. He makes one decision in this movie, you're like, that was dumb. And then finally, B.D. Wong back. I love B.D. Wong, man. You know this about me. If B.D. Wong shows up anywhere, I'm always in. He's back as Dr. Wu. Really always love seeing him. Would have just liked to have seen maybe some development to, I don't know, one or two of these characters. But they all do a really good job despite that. And then our villains, Toby Jones, who plays Mr. Eversole, and Rafe Spall, who plays Eli Mills. Both do a fantastic job of being different kinds of villains. Spall is that guy who's just like been stewing for a long time because of something, and that drives his motivations. And he's excellent. And Toby Jones, I just love Toby Jones, man. Very small role, but man, he pops. Like, Toby Jones is someone you walk out of the movie going, man, Toby Jones was so good, and he's such a small piece. I just love it, and I love what his character is in the movie. He does a really good job. And then look, this all really ultimately comes down to three set pieces. The island's destruction, which, as I mentioned, I love that we got to spend a lot of time there. It was a great way to say goodbye. And the actual destruction of the island and the action that takes place there, all awesome. The trip to the mainland, this is that spot where I really feel like we probably could have trimmed a bunch. But that T-Rex scene that we get with Claire and Owen is wonderful. And again, the fact that the T-Rex is really there, it's a practical animatronic, 90% of that scene just adds, right? It gives you humor, it gives the characters physical things to play off of that work really well. And that's the thing that pops the most on the boat. And then the third act, right? Where we get to the Lockwood estate. That's where, things go kind of crazy. And it's just so much fun. Bayona and Pratt and Isabella Sermon and, Bryce Dallas Howard, they all do a really, really good job on the end. And then the end. The end is the big thing in this movie, man. Where this movie actually physically ends is amazing. It's the exact choice this franchise needs. It is the exact choice to get me super excited for a third movie. I believe Colin Trevorrow is already writing the third one, and I don't know what the director situation is. I don't know if they have one or not. But God, I wish they bring Bayona back, because what he does in the last 40 minutes, he could do for a whole movie with where we end up. And it is something that Jurassic fans should be ecstatic about. It's awesome. So that's it, man. I have emptied the tank on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom without spoiling, hopefully, anything. So now it's your turn, man. Hit those comments. Let me know what you thought. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Critics are kind of split. Audiences are a little bit more favorable. But it's not hitting for everybody. So hit those comments. Let me know what you thought of the movie, what your favorite part was, if there was one, or what did or didn't work. And, of course, if you haven't seen it, have I enticed you enough? I hope so. I hope just saying dinosaurs would entice you enough to go check out a Jurassic movie. Look, after the first one, yeah, they're all subpar in comparison. But look, all these Jurassic movies are fun. You should definitely be going out and enjoying something that we don't get to enjoy in real life, and that's dinos. And these are real life animatronic dinos. You can touch them. Go check it out, man, and then let me know your thoughts there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you get alerts every time I make a new video. For the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, I am the Seaman, and I am signing off. Peace!